And what about Hello and welcome to the British and Irish Eagles podcast. And we are back, baby. This is the 5th episode of the season. And I'm looking here on my monitor and we have Phil Mount Stevens wearing his, I believe, Passyunk Avenue shirt there. Mik, the beard shagger with your Scottish Eagles flying in the background. And Zareh, how are you doing, sir? You are our first fantasy football guest on the podcast at Z Kantzabedian. Thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really excited to be on the show. I'm really excited to talk Eagles and get deep into this kind of stuff. I'm just fascinated by the entire draft process.
Oh, Z, that is absolutely awesome. And Phil, how are you, sir? Have you had a good week so far? Well, have you had a long week? We're at the end of the week. It's Sunday. We don't normally record on a Sunday. This is new territory for the British and Irish Eagles podcast. How are you, sir? Oh, we'll go to you, Mik. I think Phil's having a bit of difficulty there on his technology. Mik, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good as usual. I've got a whiskey in my hand, so I'm ready to talk some birds with our esteemed guest here.
I know. I'm really looking forward to it. Just so you guys have an idea of the agenda today, we're going to quickly touch on Z and your kind of your world, I suppose, in fantasy football, but also you're an expert in rookies, you're an expert in the draft, you give expert advice to everyone to help the teams, and it's going to be really interesting to see who your favorite players are, who your sleepers are, who you think the Eagles might draft, and then we're going to play a game, folks, which we haven't played before, called Last Mock Standing. And Phil, it's Phil's baby, his brainchild. He's having a bit of technical difficulties at the moment, so hopefully he can come and explain a bit. But basically what it will be is we've got 8 mock drafts done by our members. We've got 3 from all of us, me, Mik, and Phil. And we're going to start from the start with the first mock draft, and then it's going to be a knockout formula. Z, you're going to go through and decide which mock is the best until a mock champion is crowned. And then before we do that, we're also going to dive into the Eagles' top 30 visits that they've had so far and just discuss those as well. But before we go any further, and before we jump into the top 30, there's a safety in the last couple of days who has requested a trade, and that is Budda Baker. And we've talked a lot on this podcast over the last couple of months with Shagger, who's now gone, as we affectionately call him, CJ Gardner-Johnson. The Eagles are light at safety at the moment. There's talk Brian Branch in the draft might be an option for the Eagles to go to if he's there on a trade back from 10. Perhaps we'll get into those different scenarios later on. But Mik, just before we go any further, would you, if you were Harry Roseman, or would you anyway, make a splash for Budda Baker? Maybe with pick 30, maybe a player and a later pick, maybe 62 and a player. Is this a guy you'd look to go for?
Well, if you're talking about bringing Budda, you're talking about bringing in a known entity, a known quality of player, someone who can start day one and hit the ground running because you know what you can do. If you're taking a guy at 30, you're taking a guy at 62, you've got to bake them into the team. You've got to prepare them for the NFL. They're coming out of college. It's a completely different game. The game's a different speed. And we saw it last year. Like this is sort of Howie Roseman's garden, isn't it? His sandpit, his plaything is the draft, and what he likes to do is make deals that other GMs are either too afraid to do or just don't have the balls to do. And we saw it last year, and it worked out perfectly with AJ Brown was brought in from the Titans. We swapped first round draft picks on that night, and look how that one turned out for us. So I would absolutely love to have Budda Baker as part of the organisation. I think he would be invaluable to our secondary. Like you said, we're really stretched out in that safety position. We're talking about Probably Reed Blankenship being one of our starters, a UDFA from last season. It's a no-brainer for me. As long as, if the money's right, I'm sure Howie can work the cap. He's get the cap and clicking. I'm sure it'll be fine.
What are you giving up?
What am I giving up?
Yeah.
I don't actually really know. It depends.
Do you think 30 is too much? Do you think 30 is too much?
I don't think 30 is too much. 10 would be far too much. But 30, yeah, I could see that happening. Depends, the sort of deal that Howie makes with Arizona. I think Howie usually gets the best end of these deals. I don't know if you've listened to the most recent podcast of Around the NFL, and they named Howie Roseman the number 1 GM.
Oh, yeah.
So
Howie, baby.
Yep. Trusting Howie.
What about you, Z? Would you make a move for Buda Baker if you were the Eagles? Safety's a need position for them at the moment.
I would, because especially with the scheme that they have, Buda Baker played a lot of free safety. I think he played 40% of his snaps at free safety in 2022 on Arizona, which is considered the deep portion of the field. I know that the Eagles defensive scheme, they prefer their safeties to not play slot a lot. Like CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't playing slot a lot. He was playing a lot of safety because he was playing more further back. And the interesting thing is that CJ Gardner-Johnson spent the majority of his time on the Saints playing a lot of snaps in the slot. So, Buda Baker already has that comfort level. He's experienced pro. He's a Pro Bowler. Like you said, it's going to be easier than integrating Brian Branch. It frees up a first-round pick to do something else, or bringing in Jordan Battle or Brian Branch. So it frees up another pick that you can do. And, I don't think there's really much thought to it. I think the 130 is a really good price for it. 110,
yeah.
It might be a little bit of an overpay, but the 110 this year, I was trying to save this for the later portions of the draft, but I think it's probably appropriate now. The 110, given based on what the Eagles need right now, there aren't too many surefire things at the 110 this year. And I think if you're spending a 110 pick, you want something close to as 100% as possible. And at the 110, based on what the Eagles need, there really isn't anything that's a lock outside of maybe a couple guys, maybe if they're even there. So if they were drafting in the 110, they're probably just drafting on talent alone and not need. So that's probably another conversation.
The Eagles do that. Howie is known for best player available at a position like that as a GM. So there's a potential that they could go there. But you're right. I think the odds on the Eagles drafting at 10, whether that is trading out or trading up, the Eagles drafting at 10 is, what would you say, make 50-50? Less? Would you say they're more likely to trade out 10 than to pick at 10?
Howie tradesman, man. Howie tradesman. I don't know if we're more likely to trade down, or I think if the draft goes a certain way, there's a possibility that we could trade up. That's less people are talking about just now, but I could see it going either way for Howie, to be honest. But like Zareh says, it's the value at 10. It seems like a wise move to bring down. Especially we don't have a lot of picks around the back end of the draft either. So we've got a few picks in the top 100, yeah, for sure. But after that, there's a massive gap between. What pick is it again, Liam? Something.
We're not 90, 91, and then it's all the way to 200.
All the way to 200. I don't see how he's sitting on his hands for 100 picks. Do you?
No, I don't. It's been interesting looking at doing my own mock drafts today. To submit one or two, it's been interesting of how it's fallen, and it's so tempting to pick up those round 3, round 4, round 5 picks just to get some talent. And when you look at the amount of players that left the Eagles this year, there are gaps to fill. Yes, we brought a lot back, but we let a lot go. We won't cover that again because we covered that on previous podcasts. But yeah, okay, interesting. Buda Baker. Be interested to see what happens in the next few days. Whether he gets traded before the draft, whether it's a piece during the draft. I feel like now that he's requested a trade, it's probably more likely to happen before. But I don't know. We'll see. A lot of people out there are picking the Eagles to be the ones to go and get him. So we'll see how that falls. All right, let's get into the top 30 visits then. So we're going to have a little look at who the Eagles have had so far in their top 30 visits, and just pick a few out what we've been delighted with, any we might be disappointed with, who we want to go see there. So yeah, let's go and do that now. So I don't know, Mick, if you can get it up on screen or not, but we'll go through some of these guys. Peter Skoronsky, Breeze. Actually, you know, Mick, I'm going to let you go through this because you know the college players much better than I do. Why don't you ring this from the top 30 visits so far?
No, thank you very much. Just as I'm trying to scramble to get the.
All right. Alrighty. Well, I'll keep going through it then. We got the tackle / guard Peter Skoronsky, someone I've been looking at so far in this offseason. I actually prefer Paris Johnson Jr. personally. At that position of the Eagles we're going to pick, and I think with the Lane Johnson contract extension, I think it's maybe less likely they will now go and pick at 10 for an offensive tackle, but I think that could happen. Oh, there you go, Mick. I'll let you take it away. You've got it up.
Yeah, so I finally got to my PowerPoint. I tell you what, this live podcasting is difficult.
What is this, number 2?
Yes, it's number 2. We're veterans in the podcast game now, but not when it comes to live. So appreciate
that looks good, though. That looks good.
Listening. Yeah. A lot goes into these graphics. You know me, Liam. I'm always working away at my graphics in the background. But yeah, you're right. The top 30 visits, we seem to have. I've tried to group them together by school as well. So, you know, the 3 players from Georgia, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Kelly Ringo, the 2 from LSU's Oyalari and Roy as well. A couple from Ohio State. We've got Jones and Johnson Jr., and then a smattering of other players looking probably towards either the 10th pick or the 30th pick in the draft, depending on how your draft board looks. But there's a lot of guys in there, and there's a lot of talent in there, and a lot of people will be very excited by the names on this board, particularly Bijan Robinson, and particularly Jalen Carter. Whether or not Howie decides to pull the trigger on a couple of these guys who, you know, definitely first round talent, top 10, top 15 talent, is anyone's guess on how it falls on the draft night. But these are guys who, you know, who could make a difference for the Eagles straight away. And that's the position that we are in. We're looking to get back to the Super Bowl again with Jalen Hurts. The offensive weapons that he's got, put Bijan Robinson in there, and who is going to stop the Eagles then? Similarly, you know, we lost Javon Hargrave to the 49ers in free agency. Bring in Jalen Carter, plug and play straight away. That is a guy who's going to fill the gap at the 3-tech defensive tackle and make a difference to our team immediately. So there's a lot of talent in there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these names now and who I would be over the moon with the Eagles taking. And there's a few in there. Paris Johnson Jr., I've said it before in this podcast. Nolan Smith is the guy. I'm going to look at those 3 from Georgia. You're going to say you're mad to not take Jalen Carter. I've said before in this podcast, I'm still not entirely sold on the character side and whether the Eagles will buy into that. A lot of people saying they will. Looking at those 3 from Georgia, I'd go Smith, Carter, Ringo in that order. Skoronsky, I'd be happy with. I wouldn't be over the moon with at 10, but I'd be happy with. Broderick Martin, potentially Bijan Robinson. Sorry, yeah, not at 10. I mean, I know Phil would love him at 10. So Phil, do we see if your mic is back in the game yet? Your technology working? Well, it might be working, but now you're on mute. So let me unmute.
Can I chime in real quick? And I have a question about, you know, Ringo and Porter Jr. Are we expecting them to spend a first round pick on DB, considering that they have Slay and Bradbury over there right now? Or would you guys expect that to happen?
I don't think so, but a lot of people do. But I think it's more likely to be Witherspoon or Gonzalez at 10 if they do, as opposed to Ringo or Porter Jr. perhaps at 30, if he does fall there. But Mick, you talked about this a bit as well.
Yeah, well, the interesting point is that whilst we've given a contract to James Bradbury, and he had a phenomenal season last year. I think he was all pro, wasn't he? Yeah. And Darius Slay again had a great season. He was extended, but these guys are, they're not on the right side of the age scale. We're probably going to need some new blood coming in behind them, especially if you look at the depth chart. It's not great reading after those two. So if we do lose a corner, we were very, very, very fortunate last year not to have many injuries across the roster. But if either one of those guys goes down, we're talking about Zach McPherson on the line. I'm not sure about that myself. I think we could use the help at corner. Yeah, that's what's so good about draft season, isn't it? You can make a case for pretty much any position at any point. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I say I don't personally see the Eagles doing it at cornerback. I think the most likely pickup for the Eagles at 10 is defensive line on the edge or in the interior defensive tackle position. Phil, have we got you?
Have you got me? That's the question. Have you got me?
Yes,
we
do.
I've not had any technology issues at all. I don't know what's been going on, but it's been absolute chaos. So apologies, everyone, but I think I'm here now. So,
excellent.
I don't see the Eagles picking at 10 at all. I just feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, between jumping up for Carter or someone like that and using pick 30. Or trading back and trying to pick up a player that we all really want, like Bijan Robinson, sort of in the mid-teens, early 20s, if we can really afford it. Pick up a second or a third here or there, make up some picks later on in the draft. That two guesses of which mock draft's going to be mine's going to like, but yeah, I just don't see anything at 10, sort of unless sort of Carter for some reason falls to 10, in which case
unless someone falls, yeah. There's a couple that could fall. I can see it taken. Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say it's interesting because Carter was supposed to fall with all of his issues in the offseason. And in the mocks I've done, he's going inside the top 10 every single time. Yeah. It's very upsetting because I'm expecting him to fall to me every single time I do an Eagles mock draft, and he's never there. I'm wondering what's happening.
No.
But yeah, it's there's another guy that I've been settling for, which I'm very happy with. I'll save for later. But okay. Yeah, it's just odd. I mean, I don't think nobody took the bait with Carter. They were just like, all right, it was like a little speed bump in the offseason, and he's right back to where he was. Maybe a little bit lower than where he was supposed to go. I think he was like projected to be like, top easy top 3, right? Yeah. But he's still going to get that perceived high draft capital.
Yeah. I mean, so looking at that board then, Z, if you take Jalen Carter out of the mix, take him out, leave everyone else in there. Who's the one player on that top 30 visits who you say is going to be an absolute dog, stalwart, lock-in, or is there any?
Within the top 10?
Yeah, no. So the top 30 visits on the screen there, so that the Eagles have had so far. If you take out Jalen Carter, of those people on the screen right now, you've obviously got Broderick Martin, you've got Bijan Robinson, you've got Paris Johnson Jr., Skoronski, Porter, Nolan Smith, Ojulari.
Liam, I'm with you. I like Paris Johnson a lot. At 130, I think that makes sense. Or Ojulari in day 2 of the draft. Nolan Smith, I think these are all three strong candidates. Ringo, I mean, I think Ringo, if he's there at 130, you just take him. You absolutely take him. If you can take 110, and if you can't trade up with 110, you can kind of trade back a little bit in the first. As well as have that 130, you can pick up Ringo plus another great guy in the first still, and you can pick up you can get another second round pick along with that, so you can have two seconds, and then add some more depth. There's a lot of things. There definitely it's a tough spot, but there's some flexibility. The problem with being at 110 is, outside of JSN dropping to 110. There really isn't much to dangle to the teams below you that are in need of something, so that's the problem with the 110 spot. It's either, I think they have a better chance of trading up than they do of trading down and getting, appropriate value for the 110.
Yeah. I was saying to Mick earlier, I could see if for whatever reason Anderson fell to 6 or 7, if that happened, or if Carter is there at 7 or 8 and they don't think that he's going to drop till 10, I think Howie makes the move. Sorry, Mick.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's a good point that we make because we're looking at mock drafts and we're like, yeah, trade back. A team has to be willing to trade up, you know?
Yeah.
So what are they trading up for? And I think Zareh makes a very good point. It could be wide receiver 1 off the board if someone's going to come up for GSN to try and get him. Because I think there's quite, in my opinion, I think there's quite a big gap between GSN and, Addison or who's the
Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson.
Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers. Yeah, I think GSN is head and shoulders above all of those. Yeah. And it's probably one of the permutations that I could see on draft day, but a team has to absolutely love a guy to jump up, and that's a very good point, as Zareh makes.
I think I did experiment with the Chargers jumping up and taking JSN because Keenan Allen's getting up there. Mike Williams isn't, he's no poster child of being healthy. No. So I mean, that's the only real candidate I saw as far as JSN being the last top tier guy. The Chargers are the only team I see jumping up to make that kind of trade.
Interesting. Okay, then let's do this real quick then. Mick, I think I know who your person is going to be here. I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm going to write it down on my phone before I ask you the question. Is there one player on that top 30 list you don't want to see drafted by the Eagles? I'm going to send it to Phil, actually, so let me just send it to Phil first. Right, hang on.
This is great live TV.
Go. Phil, I've sent you what he's going to say. Mick, who on that board does he not want to see the Eagles? Do you not want to see?
Me? You want me to go?
Yeah, you go.
Oh, sorry. I thought you wanted Phil to go.
No, I'm just the adjudicator.
I'm going to say Luke Van Ness, so...
He did.
That's exactly who I sent, yeah.
I've made it no secret that I don't rate him that highly. I think that there's better edge rushers on the board that will be there at 10 that would take over Luke Van Ness, but I do have a great nickname for him, and if we do draft him, I will be 100% behind the guy, and I'll take the nickname, which is the Luke Ness Monster.
Oh, okay. Scottish connotations. I like that. Z, you got any thoughts on Van Ness?
It was Van Ness. It was the same exact guy before you guys even said anything. Van Ness was the guy I didn't want to see go. Please don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Jesus, I really hope we're not doing a live draft and we draft them at like 10 or something crazy like that. That'll be
terrible. Mick gets his heart broken nearly every year, and I think that would absolutely break him.
I'm sure so many Eagles fans would just shut the TV off. They're like, that would be brutal.
I think they'd more likely throw it out the window being Eagles fans than shut it off. But yeah. All right, good stuff. Let's move on to the next segment of the podcast. Z, let's get you in the hot seat here. We're going to talk about your favorite players in the draft. So forget about the Eagles drafting them, whether it's fantasy, whether it's just players you like who are going to be top level. Turn us out every single year. Pro bowlers, going to be difference makers for the teams. Who are the guys in the draft who you're like really excited to see at the next level?
Oh man, I think I'll bring up one running back, one wide receiver, and I'll start with running back. Basically, the theme with this running back class is each running back is their own archetype, pretty much in this own class. Like there aren't really one-to-one comparisons between all the running backs who are projected to go like within the first 2 to 3 days of the draft. With that said, Devin Achane is a running back that is getting a lot of flack for his BMI. He's 188 pounds, but the things that he does well really compensate for the lack of size. The things that he does well really help him be productive despite his size, right? So like he's not going to go and bulldoze over guys, obviously, but what he does have is patience and vision. So like he plays with a lot of patience. He plays with a lot of vision. He seems like a very mature running back. His stats, like there's some advanced stats that I totally forgot to write down, but his advanced stats are just so far above and beyond the rest of this class that I think is going to really shine through. I wish I could bring him up real quick. Forget, I'm not going to do that. That's going to take way too long. But yeah, Devin A-Chain. I think if you, what's that?
Even over Bijan Robinson, is it
no,
or?
No, God, no, not Bijan. No, not Bijan. No way. No, but yeah, Devin A-Chain would fit somewhere good like Atlanta. He fits somewhere good like with Sean Payton in Denver. He there's a lot of places he fit well because there is a role for him to have, anywhere between 10 touches or 12 touches the most and an efficient passing game back. I'd like to put him on the Eagles, but they just don't throw to the back. They have no reason to throw to the back. They already have Kenneth Gainwell over there. So yeah, I like Devin A-Chain a lot as one of like a day 2, and I think he's projected to go like in round 3 in most mocks. And as far as a wide receiver goes, I like Trey Palmer out of Nebraska. He's a transfer who came from LSU. He was on Nebraska in 2022 only, but it was his breakout year. He went for about 1,049 yards, 1,048 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was on LSU for 3 years before that. He was on the team while Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were all there and Terrace Marshall, right? So obviously he's not doing anything then. Then Joe Burrow leaves with all of them. And then he's stuck on LSU behind like Kayshon Boutte, and they're not really doing anything. And the transfer portal kind of just saved his ass because he went over to Nebraska. He went off, and he's pretty much a deep threat specialist, but he does flash as a split end X receiver. He's going in round 4 of drafts right now. I just saw him recently go to the Atlanta Falcons. But I mean, this kind of opens the discussion up to what the transfer portal is doing for a lot of receivers, because there's a lot of coaches out there who just don't know how to utilize a receiver properly. Like right now, there's a receiver, I think his name is Justin Wilson at Florida State University. He's 6'7", 235 pounds. He was on Arizona before that for a couple of years. They just use him as a perimeter run blocker. That's it. And he went to Florida State University. He put up 840 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns in his first year as an active wide receiver. So the transfer portal right now is kind of dissolving those misconceptions we have of wide receivers. And Trey Palmer is just another recent example of that out of Nebraska. These guys can play, and I think it's kind of add a lot more value to the class, to the wide receiver position as that transfer portal starts opening up and players move around more and more in the future.
That might be really interesting for Eagles fans listening in. I'm thinking Quez Watkins here, Mick, kind of our home run hitter at the moment. If Jalen wants to go deep, he's had some catching problems this season just gone by. A couple of big plays. He had an okay. He regressed basically. Last year he had a decent 2021. He regressed in 2022. A lot of people were thinking he was going to make a big jump up, big step up. Obviously, AJ Brown coming in, meaning we had AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert is going to limit the opportunities that you're going to have a wide receiver. So your wide receiver 3 at the Eagles is almost like a wide receiver 4 elsewhere, because of all the attacking options they have. But when he was given the chance, he didn't take the chance. And I was playing around with mock drafts today, and I was actually playing around with trading Quez Watkins as part of a package in the draft. I wonder whether that's something Howie will do. And I'm going to throw this out there as well. I don't know if I've said this in the podcast yet, but I have a feeling that Kenneth Gainwell might be traded in a package during this draft. I feel like Howie might jump on the value of what other teams saw in the postseason last year compared to what they've seen in totality from Kenny G, and might try and package him up and get maybe it's A-Chain, maybe it's A-Chain, maybe it's Devin A-Chain, maybe he's packaged up in a deal to get him at somewhere in the draft, and the Eagles feel like they're upgrading there. But the Trey Palmer thing really excites me because I feel like he could be a player that could fit in at that wide receiver 3 position instead of Quez Watkins, and because Quez was a 5th round pick, 6th round pick, for the Eagles, and overperformed probably in 2021 and then regressed in 2022. He's a gap for me. He's a gap for me at the moment. That's a positional gap, I should say, wide receiver 3 at the moment. So, and I've seen so many mock drafts of like Eagles taking a player in the top 60 picks, and I'm like, they're not going to do that when they have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert as the tight end, like so many pass catching opportunities. But you're telling me, did you say day 3, round 3, round 4?
Right. Yeah, he's a round 4 guy. I saw him going round 4 recently to the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah.
I'd buy your hand off for that.
And the thing is that they just don't have those picks. That's the only problem.
True.
It's round 3 and then round 7. So you got to find
after they trade pick 110 and they pick up a couple of
hopefully
3 and 4s and a late first. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Mick, thoughts on A-Chain and Power?
I have started to mock A-Chain more and more and more over the last couple of weeks. I think there's a lot to like about him. I think my go-to guy at running back, because I feel like the Eagles are going to take a running back at some point during the draft, and if it's not, someone like I think I've mocked every single running back there is in this draft. So far, the amount of mock drafts that I've done, I've had Bijan, I've had Gibbs from Alabama. I've had Tyjae Spears from Tulane, and A-Chain is just my newest crush. But I think it would be a valuable addition to the Eagles. It's interesting what you say, Liam, about the trade package for Kenny G. Not sure if that will happen, but it would be. I think it's the first time I've heard it, so bravo to you for a brand new take on the podcast.
I think Kenneth Gainwell actually has value too. I just don't think he's utilized, to his fullest potential. And nothing against Sirianni, but I think he deserves to go play somewhere where he get more touches.
I agree.
I
completely agree. And this is no knock on Kenny Gainwell. This is a pure. You've literally hit the nail on the head. He's not being utilized in the way he could be. And when you have Jalen Hurts as a dual-purpose running back, when the Eagles are probably going to be looking for a downhill, strong running back to take some of the pressure off Jalen running the ball, which isn't Kenny G. They could play similarly with Boston Scott to the way they can play with Kenny Gainwell. He's a much cheaper option in there. I just more and more been thinking about it. If they can get value in the draft for Kenny G by powering him off. It's just me people listening in and saying, what are you talking about? Why would you let him go? He played so well in the offseason.
Most Eagles fans were out on Kenny Gainwell before the postseason.
Exactly.
Before playoff Kenny emerged, a lot of Eagles fans were thinking,
I don't hate the idea, but I think that would be a situation for me where we have got Bijan, we have got a star running back early on, not necessarily Bijan, but if whatever we do, if it's my scenario where we trade back a bit, pick him up in the middle, then I can see something like that happening as part of the plan to get those mid-level picks later on. We've got Bijan, we can afford to lose game. I just think losing the top 2 running backs from last season is a bit of a stretch if that isn't the case. So if it's a case of we've lost him, we're not getting Bijan, we're not getting Gibbs, we're sort of getting into the middle rounds now. We've not got any significant running backs of note. Penny's not fit, but Boston Scott's not a top running back.
You're painting a horrible picture now, Phil.
I know, but I think that's what I mean is if someone said to me that's what's going to happen, I'd be like, so we got Bijan, right? We got Bijan.
I don't think you necessarily need to go and get Bijan with the offensive line we have. I mean, Z is A-Chain is he an upgrade on Kenny?
I believe he is. It's hard to say again too because Kenny's he's 10 to 12 pounds heavier than A-Chain. It's really tough to say. It's almost like they're breaking even, but in a different way. I do agree that they don't need to go get Bijan. There are guys later in the draft that they can pick up, but they are dangerously close to not having an early down back. They need to prioritize a running back that profiles as an early down back because I am not trusting Rashad Penny 1 second of any day of the week to be healthy throughout the season. I'm just not going to trust that. He's fine to open the season as a starter, and I don't believe that he'll remain the starter, because of health
reasons, right?
Yeah, health reasons. So you got to go get some guy, Zach Evans, a couple Zach Charbonnet, Zach Evans, Roshan Johnson, Kendre Miller. There's a bunch of guys that they can go pick up. They still have freaking Trey Sermon, who's on their practice squad or something like that. I mean, they got who's the guy they got out of USC as a UDFA last year? Kennedy Brooks. There's the thing with running back is you can either pick up an early down back, a back that profiles as an early down back, a productive one in college early in the draft, or you're not, and you're just going to wait till like round 7 and pick one up. There are a lot of like Kendre Miller is not going. He's not getting drafted until like the 6th round, right? Like these guys are not getting selected early. It's going to disappoint a lot of that, and that's going to upset a lot of dynasty fantasy managers because you want your guys picked early. But a lot of these running backs, they're not that amazing. I mean, they're just early down backs who are going to keep linebackers honest. And that's pretty much what I think the Eagles want out of the running back. They just want a guy who's going to keep linebackers honest on RPOs, and that's it. I mean, if they can get a prolific back, I'm sorry if I'm ranting, but if they can get like a prolific back that's going to pick up yards, fine, by all means, go ahead. But I mean, they back to my original point, they are going to need somebody who profiles as an early down back, and yeah. So.
Yeah,
but that ain't going to be in the 1st round, in my opinion.
I just think that, like in the scenario you're on about, not necessarily specifically Bijan, I just think that strategy would have to involve really targeting the running back position and really being specific about the guy that you want, not just kind of let's get rid of Gainwell and pick up whatever guy might fall in our lap at whatever point. There's got to be a plan, and I guess there's got to be a guy that they've got their eye on, whether that's Charbonnet, Gibbs, or someone in sort of the 2nd or 3rd round, or picking up later picks. But I feel like it can't just be a fanciful thing just to sort of go, hey, let's just throw Gainwell on the pyre and see what we get for him. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like it. I thought Kenneth Gainwell coming out of Memphis, I think he showed the ability to be an early down runner. I know he's only 200 pounds. I mean, he's the same. He's essentially almost the same thing as Jahmyr Gibbs. Like he's almost the same size in the profile, athletic profile of weight and height as Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr's more prolific though, right? I would imagine.
What's that? Gibbs? Oh yeah, Gibbs is good. No, I'm not saying they're the same as far as production. They're not the same. Gibbs. Also, I don't think Gibbs is a good example. I don't think Gibbs is a good fit for Philly because I just don't think that they're going to utilize him in the way that he's intended to be utilized. Like Steve Sarkisian, Gibbs throughout his entire collegiate career, he either was 2nd in receiving receptions on the team or 1st on receptions on the team. At Alabama in 2022, Jahmyr Gibbs was 1st. He led the team in receptions. That's just what he does. Like he's a receiving back. He's a very good zone runner. He's very good at bouncing. He's very athletic. He can just get around the edge very quickly. But I mean, if somebody can convince me that Sirianni is going to use Gibbs in the proper way, I'm all for it. But I don't want Gibbs to go to.
I'm sensing some a bit of shade on Sirianni coming from Z over here. The last
he upset me the way he didn't use Gainwell upset me a lot. I think Gainwell could have been used a lot more as a satellite back out of the backfield. He just didn't. It was so inconsistent with Gainwell. It was never like. Did
Sirianni beat you in a game of hoops? Did you play a bit of basketball with him?
I like Sirianni. I think he did an amazing job. It's just with Gainwell, I have a little bit of grudge with him. All
right, that's allowed.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, should we get to your Eagles mock draft, NZ?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's go for it. So, how many rounds have you done to start with?
How many separate? You mean like how many separate mocks have I done?
No. Rounds in the. Did you do the full 7 rounds in the draft?
I did the full 7. Yes, I did. I did the full 7. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
I have the actual mock screenshot. I wonder if I could share it with you. Can I try to share it with you guys or no?
Can you share, Mick? Is there a present option for you?
There is.
Try it.
We're all learning here. It's fine.
We've done like well over 100 like podcasts, but this is only our 2nd live, so we're still learning.
All right, here we go. Oh, here we go. It's not going to be like full screen, but let's see if I can get it up.
Oh yeah.
Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me zoom in on that. All right, so that's it right there. So what I did was with 110, I really wanted Kalijah Kancey because Javon Hargrave's leaving. It was brutal. It was brutal for the interior part of the line. He was a beast last year. And at 110, I wanted Brian Branch and Kalijah Kancey in the 1st round. I wanted them both. So I traded out of the 110 with the Chargers. I traded the 110 for the 121 a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick in 2024, which I'm sure Roseman's going to package with Gainwell for like a second-round pick in 2024 or something.
There you go.
I'm sure he'll do something like that with that. That's what he does with those 6th, 7th-round picks. He just turns them into gold. I don't know how he does it. But so anyways, I traded down to 121. I got Kalijah Kancey. I can't believe it. And then pick 130 came, and Brian Branch was right there. So those are 2 A+ picks. I agree with PFF. Those are 2 A+ picks. The thing with Brian, and Brian Branch too. I like Brian Branch a lot because he, even though he didn't play a deep safety a lot, he was primarily like a slot receiver. But Brian Branch has a really good feel for zone. He understands where players. This cat just came out of nowhere. I'm sorry. He has a really good understanding for zone concepts. He's very quick to react. He plays with a technique that DBs play a lot with called catch technique, where as wide receivers come off the line of scrimmage, DBs put their hands on the wide receivers, either on their hips or just plainly on them, but they put them on the hips because the hips are the key to understanding what wide receivers are going to do in their routes. So he puts his hands on the wide receivers. He gets physical with them. The only thing is, because he didn't play at deep safety a lot, and the Eagles do like to play their safeties at deep safety a lot, will he make that transition successfully? So, I mean, you could have passed on Brian Branch and gone for somebody like Paris Johnson and picked up another guy, like another safety in the second round, Jordan Battle, I think. Yeah, you could have got Jordan Battle like in the second round. Anyway, so
you'd like to think. No, just pausing there.
No, go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead.
On those first 2 picks, that you'd like to think someone like Brian Branch, like projected to go in the first round as a safety, they're like gold safeties that go in the first round, right? It doesn't happen very often or all the time, right? Not many of them, for sure. If you've got a profile of positions that go in the first round and transition well, safety's not high on that list. So you would like to think that while he's not played a lot of deep safety, he could transition to play more of that. And it's interesting you make that point about the Eagles not playing free. They like to play a lot of deep safeties, and that's going to continue with the new defensive coordinator coming in, because he's got the same ideologies that Gannon had, who's left as well. So that's
right.
That's not going to change. And Kalijah Kancey at 21, will we pick up a 59 and a 6th round the next year? I mean, I know there's a few people who aren't huge Kancey fans and aren't believing some of the hype around the Aaron Donald kind of athletic comparisons, and he's got small hands, etc. But if you're going to pick him up at 21, I'm going to bite your hand off for Kalijah Kancey at 21. I mean, all day, every day, and to the bank and back. And Brian Branch at 30. I mean, yeah, I've had an idea, by the way, Mick. This is ad hoc. He's probably thinking, well, oh shit, what's going on? I reckon at the end of our last mock standing, we need to put the winner against this draft. Your cat was saying hello. Now my cat's saying hello. And we need to see if your draft has beaten the rest of us, because I'm looking at this right now. I'm seeing Zach Charbonnet. Okay. We're going to get to that in a second. By the way, Zach Charbonnet should definitely start a wine. Sounds like it should be a wine, Charbonnet. Right? Luke Hybris, center out of Ohio State. If Jurgens does really well at right guard this year and wants to stay there, then Luke would be a great fit. We need a guard. We're lacking a guard at the moment with Sayamala gone. So Chandler coming in there looks great as well. So anyway, look, I'm already I'm loving the draft, but let me let you take it back away. So you got Kancey, you got Branch, you got pick 52 in your trades. Take it away.
Yeah, and so with the pick I picked up from the Chargers, I got Zach Charbonnet. I mean, because I just didn't really like the value at wide receiver. Like after like Addison, Quentin Johnson, all those guys. Sorry, again, here he is again. After all those guys in the first round,
we should have a cat podcast.
Yeah, I don't know how he got out
in disguise.
I put him in the room. I don't know how he got out. I don't know how but he does this all the time. He just gets out.
I love it. What kind of cat? Can we see the cat? Come on.
It's just
come on,
a great cat I got at some
Let's
like
see him.
podunk pound a few towns over. This is him.
Oh, he's beautiful.
He's a pain in the butt.
He's cute.
Yeah. Okay, get out of here, dude. Stop jumping on me. Yeah, so again, Zach Charbonnet I thought was a better value at running back than any of the wide receivers in the second round. I don't feel too comfortable with Jalen Hyatt. I would have rather had Charbonnet. I think Hyatt's fine as a deep threat, but I think he just gets bullied off his routes way too much. He does some things effectively against like soft covers, like when he has a lot of space to work with. But like when he's running those interior routes, he just gets bumped way too early, way too easily. And you can find somebody else that does that better, like Trey Palmer, honestly, later on in the draft. So I took Zach Charbonnet because I want insurance as an early down running back for the Eagles. And then I went on to get Luke Whippler. I went on to get Luke. I wanted Luke Whippler because I wanted, I know Jason Kelsey's on his last year, right? He signed a 1 year deal. So Luke Whippler, he gets a lot of flack because I think he's 6'3", 303. And people say that he's too light, but then Jason Kelsey's 6'3", 282. And I just don't get I don't get how Whippler is too light and too small when he's like 10 pounds heavier than Jason Kelsey. But Whippler is awesome because if Jason Kelsey, Jason Kelsey plays out his year, Whippler can stay behind him for a year and play as a reserve and learn from Kelsey. He's very athletic. He's in his starts. I think in his 2 years as a full-time starter, I think he allowed 1 or 2 sacks only. Yeah. He allowed 7.
And the Eagles love those kind of metrics. Like that's what they did with Jurgens, with the Jurgens pick as well. And yeah, that's the kind. And also something to note as well. Like we got Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach. You can literally you can bank on a pick being successful most of the time. Because of the talent that Jeff Stoutland has. And Phil, was it the New Heights podcast where Howie made a comment about you can kind of pick him up anywhere?
Yeah, I think it. I think it was. I think we all generally feel that way about any pick along the offensive line, especially at center. I mean, you're talking about the comparison Z between Whippler being too light and Kelsey being much lighter in itself, but Kelsey is a bit of a unicorn in himself. I mean, he's had such a stellar career for the size and where he was drafted and what the expectations were for him. But you can argue that again, Jeff Stoutland was a big factor in that. So yeah, I think there's a lot less pressure, I think, on offensive lineman picks, center, guard, and tackles, and all that sort of stuff because we feel like there's like an added bonus factor. So whatever you rate them, you rate this tackle as a 5. Well, he's a 7 under Stoutland.
Yeah, supercharged. I mean? I like that. Yeah.
And the thing is, I went for Whippler and I went for Zavala because those guys are athletic. They have athletic profiles. They can move in space. And that's why I went for those guys. Like it's very rare where you can find centers and guards who can get to the second level and stick on linebackers who are much more athletic than them. So that's essentially why I chose those guys because they're athletic with upside. And in today's NFL, that's what you need. You need guys that can move. You don't have like 380 pound, 90 pound, 400 pound guys at the line anymore, just standing there and just pushing each other around. So I mean, I thought the offensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles has always been their primary strength, and I am a big philosophy. I'm a firm believer in keeping your strengths strong and keeping those core those core things, those core elements of an offense of a team, keep those strong and then keep building around those and whenever you can. But I just wanted to keep reinforcing that for the Eagles. It's really important for Jalen Hurts to have a strong offensive line so they can run RPOs and whatever else they need to do so they can keep running the ball as efficiently as possible. And that's and Chandler Zavala at the back of the third round was amazing. I can't believe he was there. He's another very athletic guy. Also, I think he allowed 0 sacks in both years. Right?
Appreciate to how he's quiet there, and again with Stoutland there, if they have the athletic ability, the technique can be taught. As well. Yeah, I'm loving all those picks.
I couldn't find anybody to trade down with because I wanted to pick up a wide receiver, but after round 3, there just wasn't anybody I felt like who would logically I'm sure I probably could have forced one in a simulator, in a draft simulator. But
no, we don't like to do that though. You don't need to force anything.
Yeah, I didn't want to force it. I wanted to keep it as genuine as possible, and I just couldn't
Absolutely.
find a trade partner for a wide receiver. Like I think I brought Trey Palmer, but I think there's guys like Jonathan Mingo, who out of Ole Miss. I mean, why not have 2 Ole Miss wide receivers, 2 insanely huge Ole Miss wide receivers on the same team?
Yeah,
Jonathan
AJ
Mingo
Brown,
on the
enjoy
Eagles?
that.
Are you kidding me? Imagine if the Eagles got Mingo in round 4, man. God, that would be so brutal. That would be sexual. That would be insane. That would be
Loving the passion there,
insane.
man. Loving the passion.
Ringo at 30 and Mingo in round 4.
I know, right?
Terry's starting to sound like an Eagles fan here. You notice
was-
this?
I was
His passion is
thinking this.
growing.
You reckon we
Yeah,
can convince
I'm
him
telling
to?
you.
We can convince him to take on the Eagles as his team.
Z, who's your team? Who's your team?
He doesn't have
I don't
one.
really. I mean, I don't have a team. I've never had a team. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. I think I need to I gotta get my brain checked. I just can't stick to a team. I just don't care.
It sounds like you love the Eagles, to be honest.
Well, if you're saying that you need your head checking, then that
I do love the
that
Eagles.
you should be an Eagles fan because we.
I don't know what
always
happened,
check
yeah. I don't know what happened. I'm all of a sudden like super passionate and really upset about the Eagles all at once. Like I don't know what's happening. This is what it feels like to be a fan. I can't take this. I've had too much coffee and I can't deal with this right now.
You said something really poignant a second ago, and that was focus on your strengths and build around them. And that is so true. And it's actually not just true in the NFL. It's actually true in life.
For sure.
Focus on what you're good at. People too often tell people you're not good at something, you need to improve it. That's bullshit. Focus on what you're good at in life and build around that as well as the NFL job. That resonates a lot with me, Z. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going into the dregs of round 7 then.
Yeah. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I like him. I think he's a big quarterback at a UCLA. I think, Mark, if the sooner you can find a replacement for Marcus Mariota, and if you can find that guy in round 7, a quarterback who can perform in the same manner as Jalen Hurts does, he can carry the same functions on a fundamental level. If you can reduce and simplify the offensive playbook down to anything, Dorian Thompson-Robinson can carry it out very easily. Marcus Mariota looked completely lost last year. I don't want him having a meaningful snap for Philly at all this year. I don't want him there at all. He's gonna taint the locker room. Just get him out of there.
It was a romantic pickup because of what happened in the Chip Kelly area. It's really obvious.
Exactly. That's all it is. People are there's like residual grime of the Chip Kelly era on Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota just looked absolutely lost last year. Felt like yesterday, I guess. And then, so Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think in round 7, I think that's amazing. I think that's incredible value for him in that portion of the draft. And Justin Shorter, I was just trying to cover ground for not grabbing a wide receiver. Justin Shorter is he's like 6'3". He ran a 4.5 and change 40-yard dash. And if you're looking at advanced metrics, that's an incredible speed score, right? You have to adjust height for speed, right? So a guy that's that big and runs a 4.5 40 is incredibly fast. That's very fast for a wide receiver that big. If anything, I mean, he's like a 5-year or 4-year starter at Florida, which is not good. You want to see these guys leave college early. You don't want to see him sticking around for too long. But if anything, he can come on and play big slot as a seam stretch mismatch for the Eagles. Maybe he can make some noise in the preseason. I think he has, he has great athleticism, as we've spoken about, and he can add, he can easily take over for Quez Watkins as a huge mismatch specialist. If Grant Calcaterra doesn't work out, he can also work as a Grant Calcaterra big slot hybrid thing. So I think Shorter, is pretty good value for the
coming on here talking about Grant Calcaterra. I think you are an Eagles fan. I mean, you know the depth guys here. I mean, what's going on, Z?
I'm a degenerate. This is why I can't be a fan of one team. I can't be a fan of one team because I got to know who's the fourth string guy on every team.
Absolutely love it.
There's guys at work there's Rams fans at work because I'm here in Southern California. There's Rams fans at work. They don't even know who's on their own practice squad. I'm like, let's talk about the practice squad. Forget the starters.
Let's go. Practice squad.
About anybody.
Who's going to jump in? Who's going to make? Training camp. Who's going to splash?
Exactly.
Justin Shorter. That's 2 in a week, right, Mick? He was the Tony G's mock last week. He had Justin Shorter in there as well.
I think Tony
Oh.
was thinking about taking him, but he didn't
Oh,
in
he
the
did in
end.
the end?
Tony is a Gators fan. But I don't think
I
he did
took
take
him in mind, but that's just because at the end of my draft, I was looking at racehorse names. It just looked pretty to me. I like Florida. It sounded good to me.
How did you do on
Maybe
the
just go.
how did you do in the Grand National, Phil? Did you anything on there?
I've taken a break from betting, to be honest. I go through massive purple patches, so I won a load of money at the start of the year, and the money I withdrew most of it, and
Slowly dwindling.
and I ran out of the last little bit of play money, and I decided, right, now it's time to take a break, and then I'll come back. But yeah, so to be honest, I completely forgot about the Grand National until about 10 minutes before it went, and I was like, it's too late now.
So do you know the Grand National, Z? Have you heard of the Grand National, the horse
I think
race?
I've heard of what it sounds like a gambling thing.
It's like the biggest horse race in the UK, basically.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest in the world, to be honest.
Is it like on par with the Kentucky Derby, something like that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would be. But basically, well, anyway, so I bet on a few horses on Saturday on the Grand National, and I was jumping up and down because I thought I had second place, and I got a good odds place money. So I was like, okay, brilliant, probably 100 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
And of the 4 horses I'd backed, he was the only one I didn't back each way. I backed him
my
to win.
God.
So I was jumping up and down, like, yeah. Anyway, it was good.
My dad took me to the track, and my cousin took me to the track when I was a kid a lot. We have 2 big tracks down here in Southern California, which probably explains why I'm such a degenerate at certain things like this, and why I just have I just love gambling, but at a reasonable amount. But I mean, like, if there's action, I would love some action anytime possible. So.
Oh, well, we'll drop you. If I've got any tips, I'll drop you a note, Z. Don't you worry about that.
Please do.
Good stuff. So, hey, listen, reaction on that draft, Mick. Did you did you like? I mean, it was great. It was graded an A by Z. Do you want to pull it back up there a second, just while we're
sure, yeah.
while we're talking about it?
Yeah. I love just being taken on the ride for it, Liam, because it's like sometimes we get mock drafts sent to us, and they're sent every day. And Zareh, we have this group chat for the British and Irish Eagles, and there's about 100 people in it or something like that, and they send in mock drafts every single day, and we love it. But you don't get a lot of context to it as well. So for you to have that and explain every single pick and why you did it and why you think the Eagles should do it, that's great. That's great podcast. That's great for our podcast. But hold on, I'll just add this to the stream so I can see it again. Thank you very much.
Just before you go on, Mick, I just
has there been another 10 mock drafts added to the chat since I started speaking?
It's really funny because my fiance is over here, right? My fiance Katie's over here, and the chat has been going off while you've been chatting. Katie's put in crawling along the floor to avoid being seen on the live pod to get Liam his bottle of red wine. It's not my finest moment.
Commando crawl on the floor.
And then Martin Reddy, if you're listening, studying Liam in the top left corner, seeing if I can spot you. Brilliant. Sorry, go on.
Katie on the replay. Send us a screenshot.
Yeah. Send us a screenshot if you spot Katie at any point on the replay.
It'll be like a Where's Waldo sort of thing.
Where's Lammy?
Where's Lammy? There you go. All right, go on, Mick. Sorry.
Yeah. So, Elijah Cansey, a guy who has been heavily mocked to the Eagles for obvious reasons that we have a need in defensive interior. Like said, Zareh already said that losing Hargrave, it was massive. We just couldn't afford to pay him. The 49ers, they've got a quarterback on a rookie contract, and they can afford that kind of expenditure. We're going to probably pay Jalen Hurts a hell of a lot of money, and well, I mean, it could be any time now. You could be announcing it in the next coming minutes. It could be a couple of months. It could be this time next year. But
Howie would let me know, Mick. He would text me if that was going to happen.
Do you think so?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let me know then. In case, just stop the podcast if it does happen.
Yeah, I'll give you a sign.
Yeah. I forgot what I was saying now. No, but we're very light on the depth of a defensive interior. I know we brought back Fletcher Cox. We've got Milton Williams, who came onto a game towards the end of the last season. And if you remember, I think Milton was also comped to Aaron Donald. Is every defensive interior that's undersized sort of compared to Aaron Donald these days? That is it's a Hall of Fame defensive tackle. You can't You can't compare that. That's too much to put on a guy coming fresh out of college saying, "Oh, he's going to be Aaron Donald." No, let's just stop that right there. But
it's been all over the media as well, Mick. Like Good Morning Football.
It's just the fanfare of the draft. That's what happens.
That's I didn't even know about that comp, and it's precisely why I don't watch that mainstream NFL network stuff like this, because it's just like, get the views, get the clicks, and I didn't even see. If you could just drop Aaron Donald the comp, then you could have like a proper like perspective on things, right? Like those crazy comps, like Anthony Richardson, just because he threw like a low completion pass percentage is because Josh Allen did it too. Like all of a sudden, like Josh Allen is a crutch argument for why Anthony Richardson is going to succeed in the NFL. That's a whole different conversation. I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm not saying he's going to be bad.
I'm Jalen.
Please calm down. Please calm down. Everybody calm down. All the people get very defensive about him. I'm a fan. I'm just saying, like, we can't, like Mick was saying, we can't use these Hall of Fame caliber guys as crutch arguments. Just eliminate that guy from your rationale. Eliminate that kind of like thought from your rationale so you can approach it logically.
If you're going to give some comparisons, maybe give some comparisons who are good players, maybe not some of the best at their position all time. Right?
Yeah.
So you're setting the bar so high for the guy, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Hall of Famers we're talking here. But no, just briefly, Zareh's obviously tried to fill gaps where we do need them. Again, Brian Branch. We've talked about the safety position already in the podcast and how we've got a bit of a hole there, and Branch could certainly fill that void. The whole 2 high safety, 1 high safety. We've still to see Sean Desai and how he's going to deploy his defense in Philadelphia. I think it will be very similar to the way Gannon did. So goes the beat writers and such that are reporting on this and the way that he ran the Bears, of course, a couple of seasons ago. Brian Branch should be a really good addition. Alabama, great program. Looks like probably a home run if we manage to get him in the back of the first round, being a first round talent. So and will be the first safety off the board as well. So you've got the best of the draft in that position, because the safety position in this draft isn't great. They're even talking about Brian Branch being a sort of hybrid, a bit of a slot player rather than like an out and out safety, because of how many slot snaps that he had at Alabama.
We don't need that though.
No, well, I mean, Maddox had a lot of time on the injury table as well.
He did, but he is an above average, underrated slot corner in the NFL, in my opinion.
Maddox?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Maddox is. I love Maddox when he's on the field, but he has to be on the field. When he wasn't, it was Josiah Scott, and that was, the varied results.
Yeah.
And we had to try and do a bit of patchwork and bring in CJ into the slot, and then we were playing Reed, and it was a bit haphazard at one point. But if we could bring in a guy who has a certain role, or maybe even can be a bit of a utility player as well, so if Maddox does go down, he can also fill in that nickel position. So it's a good pick, I think.
The thing with the Eagles, what makes it difficult for me to draft for the Eagles, it's what do you buy a team that has everything already? And that's what it kind of feels like for the Eagles to me. They're pretty much solid through and through on both sides of the ball, and it's just very difficult to shop for a team that has that. And I guess if you think about the NFL season and the longevity of the NFL season, Mick, you brought it up. You said they were very fortunate to have Bradbury and Slay healthy for the majority of the entire season, or the entire season, right? Like that's probably not going to happen again. So if you're thinking about,
you're tempting me, Z. You're tempting me to bring up something that my guys don't like me talking about, and that is that the Eagles are never going to be as healthy as they were last season.
It's tough. Like if historically, like in fantasy football, we always look at like the odds of how a receiver is going to perform to succeed in the NFL is like historically, like look at a guy that size, or like look at a guy that's done that out of that. Are guys in that division that successful in the NFL? Like how many times does that happen, right? So
how did you place Devontae Smith on that? Because there was so much talk before he came into the draft about him being Were you just getting there? Sorry if you were.
I wasn't getting there. I wasn't getting there.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I was doing that because I was saying that's a good point. Like,
Because
Devontae
that
Smith,
kind of goes against the logic, right?
that's why a lot of people who are only analytically focused got looked at BMI and never decided to study Devontae Smith, the player, and look at the deeper context of the film. Were so opposed to him being a starting wide receiver in the league. Like they just never looked at the film. They looked at the BMI and shut their computer off instantaneously. Said, nope, it's not going to happen. Historically, this doesn't happen. This guy's way too light. Way too light for what? He's not a running back. He's a wide receiver, man. Like what? He's not getting tackled off the line of scrimmage. Like the whole BMI thing in the wide receiver conversation.
And he wins contested catches as well. Like
he's far advanced. He's very advanced for coming out of college. Come on now. Like just look at him. He's a Heisman winner, man. Like, what are we talking about here? He's not a running back. He's not a quarterback. He's a wide receiver. They run routes. They're technically savvy. The game has changed to accommodate for lighter BMIs anyway. So like you can't even put your hands on these guys anymore. It's just let the man be free. Let him thrive, man. Let him cook. Like, and going back to the draft, like I think you have to approach the draft like, especially like with the Eagles who have everything already, and you want to keep their strength strong. It doesn't make you touched on it, and you said it's probably wise to draft 2 cornerbacks already. And I kind of like I went into that not even realizing drafting 2 offensive linemen in the middle of the second and third round. So yeah, I mean,
that's highly likely to happen though, given Howie. I mean, if not higher, but based on his comment that we talked about for a second ago in New Heights about, he feels he can draft an offensive lineman anywhere because he's got Stoutland. That was probably tongue in cheek. We talked about, I think, on the last podcast about maybe it being, him showing a hand he wants to be seen when actually he's not going to go that way. But
sure.
It could easily happen.
Yeah. Howie, have faith. I mean, Howie's great. You guys are so lucky to have him, dude. I would feel totally comfortable with him with him at the helm.
100%. Alrighty. Oh, hello. Bodie's making an appearance. Hey, Bo.
Hey.
Bodie's decided to. He's on his way up to bed. Couple of time, but I thought last time I said no, but he's just curious about the lights and stuff now. But
hey, Phil, Bodie, who should the Eagles take in the first round at number 10?
What do you think of the mock draft, Bodie?
Looks like he's wearing Texas orange there. Ooh, Texas orange. He wants Bijan.
He wants
Bijan.
You better hope it's Texas orange, not Syracuse. They hope they don't take Chase Brown or anything like that.
Yeah,
or Illinois or Sean Tucker. Yeah,
he's getting a bit scared now.
Oh, bless him. Oh, well, you heard it here first. Bodie Man Stevens, Bijan Robinson in the first round for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see how that one pans out. Cheers, Bo. Good stuff. That's awesome. Thanks, Phil. Cool. All right, listen. We're going to get to our game. The first game of the year, and that is Last Mock Standing. I don't know why I said all that, but I did. And I lightly explained the rules earlier on, but I'm going to pass over to Phil because it's your brainchild, Phil. And if you could just take us through what this game is about, what people can expect to see, and how it's going to run.
Cool. So, Z, I don't know if you've ever watched Hell's Kitchen, the Gordon Ramsay show.
I love it.
It's quite popular over here, but they obviously do it in the US and over the UK.
Yeah.
They do a particular game on it that's stuck in my mind, which is like where they all make a dish and the first person comes up, they taste it, go, this is pretty good. Then the next person comes up and they taste that dish and they decide whether it replaces the first dish. And so on and so forth until the last dish is standing is the winner. So you basically, if you go first, you've got to be pretty good. You've got to beat everyone else. But if you go last, you only have to beat the first person. And we're going to do that with mock drafts. So Mik's going to put up a series of fan-submitted mock drafts from our main group, plus a couple from myself, Mik, and Liam as well. And it's up to you to basically, the first one will come up, obviously. You can give us your thoughts on it. But essentially, we'll then be sticking the second one up, and it'll be your decision on which one you prefer, which one you think is the better draft. Okay, so you can be as brutal as you like. If you think it's absolutely terrible, there's some trades in there. I know there's one in particular that's going to come up that you're probably going to fall off your chair at, because I have seen it already, and we did query about putting it in. But essentially, give us your thoughts, and then whichever mock is at the end, we're going to put up against yours, and then we're going to see see where we are then. And obviously the winner will be crowned the last mock standing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Cool. Well, let's take it away then, Mick.
Well described, Phil. This is your territory now, my friend.
This is great. And also, just to add on to that, Phil, what Liam had sort of said when Zareh had done his own draft, I think we could do something like the winner of this one versus Zareh's draft, and then we'll put it on Twitter and put a poll in.
Absolutely.
It'll be like a USA versus UK sort of thing.
Oh, it's like the Ryder Cup. I love it.
I like it.
Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate that Zareh's got his glasses on now? Like, this is like it's real time.
Yeah. Pulling his seat forward and get the glasses.
I thought he put his shirt on as well. Like, he's come back like Men in Black. Like, let's see what he's doing.
Right, let's costume change seriously, yeah.
All right. First up is from our good friend Tony G, who is actually stateside as well. Bit of a draft nut himself. He's probably drafted more times than I care to count. But he has the Eagles trading up to number 3 overall to take Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, the top-rated edge rusher in the drafts, which is pretty ballsy. And for that, he is giving up the number 10 overall and the number 30 overall to Arizona. At pick 62, he's taking in Cody Mock, the tackle from North Dakota State, the guy who's got his teeth missing in the middle, and everybody loves him. He's a big ginger Viking-looking person. And straight after that, Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback from Miami. And then a couple of late round picks. So, Zareh, how does this fare to you?
Man, it's just so around the 10 and the 30 feel like, that's what it's going to cost to move to the third round, to move to the third pick, unfortunately. So, I mean, that's who you're going to take with the first pick. Unfortunately, when you do that, it doesn't leave you much room to trade for capital, any more like capital in the rest of the draft, and we kind of see that here. Cody's fine. I like Cody as a tackle. We saw, like, I took in my draft, I took some backup offensive linemen, and I think that's important. And they addressed DB. We talked about how it is. We talked about how lucky they were in Philly to have healthy DBs last year, and Tyreek Stevenson can come on and hopefully be that depth piece. A couple late guys. I know Troy Brown. I'm not familiar with Marty Mapu. So it's all in all, it's not that's how a draft is gonna play out. If you trade it for 110, 103 to go get your guy Will Anderson Jr. at 3, that's essentially how it's gonna play out. And it's a very top heavy draft in value. I'll say that much.
Do you think it's going to be difficult to surmount this one, to topple this one, given it's got Will Anderson Jr. in there, because they've managed to get such a generational talent in there? Is it going to be hard to supplant? That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. I honestly don't know yet. I can't say.
We're about to find out.
Tony G's coming out hot, but it's like that whole quality over quantity, I think, that he's gone for here. But we like I said earlier in the podcast, we're about to play Jalen Hurts. Our cap hit is quite high. We've still got some dead cap to pay off, and we need some young guys just in to fill the roster up a little bit. So we'll end up going to fill in those with practice squad players or people coming out of UDFA or 7th round caliber players, and you're bringing them into the building. And like I said, if we're not going to be as healthy as next year, that could be a problem very quickly. That's the only thing I'll say for Tony's draft.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So let's try and take a snapshot of that, Zareh, because I don't think we've quite got the technology to put them side by side. So try and keep that one in your brain, and then
what'd you say? Tony G.
That's Tony G.
Well, let's get the top 3. I'll write the top 3 down somewhere. So we go Will Anderson Jr., Cody Mock and Tyreek Stevenson, right? So I'll get Tony G in there for that.
Don't worry about it.
Sure.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
We'll make it work. Right. John Winter, good friend of mine, actually, also in the forces. Worked with him not that long ago. He's currently driving down to Portsmouth at the moment to do an engineering course, and he decided to go a bit trade crazy on this one. So much so that we had to amend the picture just to keep track of the trades that he's done. So he's decided to forego the 10th pick, but also do some more trades. So he gives up the 10th pick to Kansas City. We go back to 31. So we have 30 and 31. We get 63, 95, 122, and a 2024 second round pick. But then he doesn't stop there. He picks
It's a lot of picks, though. Just a second on that one, though, Phil. So
it is, yeah.
So
There's two slides, Liam. So there's two
no,
slides.
I'm intrigued because this is a big part of this draft, right? Is this first 10 pick, right? So he's gone pick 10 down to 31, and that's what's the counterbalance, right? Because 10 to 31 is a huge drop
jump.
off in draft value.
He's recouped quite a lot there, and he's got those picks. But then he's also he then decided to draft Brian Breesy at Clemson, and then he's not waited to use the very next pick. He's thought to trade that one back to Pittsburgh at 32. So moving back one and picking up pick 122. Pittsburgh. We send back 31 and we send back 122 to receive 32 and 80. Might beg your pardon.
So with all that in mind, can you just list off for the people who can't see on screen what drafts he is picking at, what positions he's picking at?
So that leaves him with pick 30, pick 32, pick 62, 63, 82, 94, and then I think some later on picks as well. We haven't been able to
24,
but I think there's others unplugged our latest 7
95 pick, and 122. That's a lot, yeah.
So in addition to Breesy, at pick 32, he's picked up an offensive tackle in Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. And then this is where he's managed to pick up Elijah Cansey at pick 62, which is probably the exactly
Mike Elijah Cansey. Elijah Cansey.
Yeah.
So this is where where we venture down the rabbit hole through the looking glass, and somehow we've ended up with Elijah Cansey at pick 62.
How has that happened? What's he done? Is he emailed PFF to give him a specific trade calculation?
PFN is drunk.
He's just completely mandrolically done that. He's removed the slider so that it allows him to do whatever he wants. Yeah.
Has he forced a trade from 50 to
no idea. John, if you're listening to this, I did pre-warn you.
John, we're ripping up your membership, mate. This isn't on.
Are you well, John? Are you okay? We know people if we need to speak to him. In addition to the miracle of number 62, he picks one pick later. He picks Luke Musgrave at tight end of Oregon State. And just before you go on that one, it's interesting to me because I was reading something yesterday or the day before, which was the age that Zach Ertz was when they traded for Dallas Goedert. So Dallas Goedert is now older than Zach Ertz when they traded for Dallas Goedert. So it's not beyond the realms of possibilities, even though many people are saying they won't go tight end, they don't need to go tight end. It's not beyond the realms of possibilities that the Eagles do trade for a tight end in the second, third round, because that's been a position of value for them over the last 7 years.
Not many people have mocked. I've not seen very many mocks drafts for the Eagles with tight ends going in it, but I think it's a logical call that there might be a tight end in our future. I just think no one wants to do it because it's not the glamorous pick unless you're looking at the top sort of 3 or 4 tight ends, which we're definitely not.
And do you think, Phil? Sorry, mate. Sorry, go on.
No. So if we're not going to be looking at those, then it could just be a case of it might be one of the extra picks that we potentially pick up. He goes, yeah, I just want to pick up a tight end just to bring in on the off chance, because the ones we've got in behind Goddard just aren't really up to standard. Calcaterra obviously didn't really do much because he didn't really get on the field much, but he's got potential. He could come in late, but he was more sort of like a very, very late round throwaway pick last year. bring in.
Yeah, 5th or 6th, I think, something like that.
Yeah. So, just
Oh,
wrap up.
hang on. I'm still there with Z. I'm sorry. I know I'm still on here. But I could really throw Z under the bus here because he said earlier on he could name the 3rd and 4th tight ends of different teams, and I'm just wondering, can you name a tight end past Goddard and Calcaterra on the Eagles team?
Jack Stoll.
Yes. Can you
Bang.
name the
The mullet.
4th one?
The 4th one. God,
He was injured in the.
He tore his ACL. He tore his ACL 2 years ago.
Oh my God! How do you know this information?
Yeah,
That's
he was
incredible.
really.
That's
He has a lot of upside. He's really athletic. I like him a lot. But I
Tall,
think he's
6'7". Yeah.
tore his ACL twice. I think. Did he?
Tyree Jackson.
Tyree Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive, Z.
That's
That's really
ridiculous.
impressive. Yeah.
Bravo.
Really impressive.
So,
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
quick.
Got to be good at
quickly
something that does absolutely nothing for me in my life.
Got a 3-month-old kid. Come on.
I know. I'll teach you all this stuff. These are the Eagles depth charts, all right? I want you to know the practice squad players. Tell me by tomorrow what these guys are. Who these guys are.
This is a very good point in the podcast. And Phil, I'm sorry, you're going to hate me because I'm still talking during a segment. But earlier on today, if you follow Z on Twitter, if you don't, ZKANTZFF at ZKANTZFF. Please go and follow him on Twitter. He posted a tweet earlier on today saying that one of the greatest things about having a 3-month-old is that you can ask them and explain to them why the Eagles should trade out from 110. And I just thought that was incredible.
Well, let's get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
Let's get to the bottom of this pick. Right.
Go on, Phil.
Sorry.
Right. No more interruptions, guys. Nah, I'm joking. It's fine.
I'll shut up.
So, to finish off these picks, Mix, just out of curiosity, have you got the rest of it, or are we just dealing with this right now? And
That's it.
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll go down to pick 82, Marvin Mims Jr., wide receiver out of Oklahoma, and then as a running back that's been brought up previously from Texas A&M, Devon Achane. There's going to be some later round picks. Obviously, pick 1, 2, 2 is not on here, but there will be a few later round picks. But from what you can see, Z, just give us your honest thoughts. Outside of the collegiate currency.
I mean, I don't even know. I was looking at the first 2 picks, and I was just thinking, I don't think I would have traded out of 110 for Brian Brees. And I don't think I would have made that deal. Then trading just 1 pick for, I mean, yeah, you get 32 and 80, which is fine, but that's fine. I get that. Anton Harrison, tackle out of Oklahoma. Then I don't know what's going on at PFM, but the Kalijah Kancey at 62, Musgrave at 63, Marvin Mims at 82 is insane. That's insane, dude. That's amazing. I mean, John, if you're watching, you got amazing value.
I think John actually runs and owns PFN Mock Draft Simulator, and it's just
He's hacked.
He just rewrote the code. He just rewrote the code for.
He rewrote the whole code. Yeah.
So this draft is like the opposite of the antithesis of what we saw with our last draft, right? Like we saw that one go very top heavy, and this one we saw a lot of value. So this is very different. So I got to choose which one I like between these two.
Yeah. So does this one beat?
Will Anderson.
Would you take this one over Tony G's?
I think I take the Will Anderson, but it's not an easy pick. I think I just take the Will Anderson right now, just because there is a lot of value right now, but I don't see the very much urgency in Luke Musgrave and Marvin Mims. And yes, I understand there is not much depth behind Dallas Goedert.
Hey, see, we got 6 more of these. All right, done. John Winter, fuck off. You.
Yeah.
I was going to be a bit more diplomatic about it, Liam. I was going to say.
Sorry, John.
Commiserations, John.
The first live in-play animation.
Last landing. So who do we have up next, Mick?
We have another one, and it is from it's a secret one, so it's one of us. It's either Phil, myself, or Liam who has come up with this one. We'll tell you who it is at the end once we've ran through it. But essentially, we have another trade up, so very similar to the very first one, but we're not going to 3 this time. We're going up to number 7 from number 10, and that's to take the exact same player as well. So we've made a trade with the Raiders. We have swapped picks from 10, 7, and we've given up a second-round pick as well next year. In 2024, it is important to note we do have 2 second-round picks in 2024. We have the Saints and we have our own pick. so we're not losing an awful lot there. We're taking Will Anderson at number 7. We've retained our 30th pick. Pick number 30 overall in the first round, and taken Paris Johnson Jr., the tackle from Ohio State. After that, we have a trade has happened between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals. And we have moved a few picks around. The Cardinals have received 62 and one of our 7th round picks, and we have received 66. Is that 66 or 68? And a round 5 pick in the midst of that. And at round 3, pick number 80, we've taken Garrett Williams, the cornerback from Syracuse. I think Syracuse came up earlier. We're talking about Orange. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then another trade. So that's the 3rd trade in this draft so far. I wonder who this is. So the Steelers have received number 66 overall that we picked up from the Cardinals. And we have received number 80, who we took Garrett Williams with, and also a 4th round pick, 120, and a 2024 4th round pick. And the back end of the 3rd, we've taken Luke Wilper. I've had too many whiskies to pronounce that guy's name, but he's the centre from Ohio State. I'm pretty sure Zareh had him in his own mock draft. If we move on to round number 4, we're picking up Tank Bigsby, the running back from Auburn. And to finish out the draft, we have a safety, Ronnie Hickman from Ohio State at round 5, pick 140. I hope I've explained that well to our listeners who are not watching along in YouTube, but I do encourage anybody listening to the podcast, please watch along, because it does add to the enjoyment.
And just to finish on that, the reason we were able to pick at 140 is because we traded pick 168 and pick 168 and 219 to pick up 140.
Trades galore.
168 we picked up in the earlier trades when we traded 66, and so we got 66 and 168 for 62 and 248. So yeah, lots of trades. And important to note that on top of what you see on your screen, there is a round 2 2024 and a round 4 2024 in the mix as well.
Liam, you did an awesome job with this draft.
Thanks.
Called out.
Was it obvious?
I saw Paris Johnson at 130. I knew who it was.
Yep.
No, this is a very good job. I'm sorry if I ruined it. I'm sorry about
that.
No,
you can. It's pretty obvious.
This is a fantastic draft. I like what you did here. This is very good. You acquired significant future draft capital, which we discussed how Howie Roseman will use that. He'll leverage it in some way or might pick with it. Who knows? But you moved around. You navigated the draft really well. Will Anderson at 1.7 is amazing. Paris Johnson at 130 is amazing. Whippler and Garrett, you got your DB. We talked about DB. We talked about safety. We talked about running back either early in the draft, take that physical guy early in the draft, or pick up a guy like Tank Bigsby, who is he's an accomplished receiver. He's caught 1 million balls in college, and he can run on early downs too. Tank Bigsby, he got more athletic this season than he was in 2021. He was just a better running back all around. I mean, this is my favorite draft easily. You did a very good job with this draft.
Thanks, bro.
He's not really in that room now.
Now I just gotta bat off the 5 drafts coming afterwards to keep my perch. And so I'm going to feed into you now, right? Just remember, in future drafts, you've got Will Anderson and Paris Johnson with your first 2 picks.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to worry about.
Yeah, I got it.
Awesome. Keep this train rolling then, Mick. Who we got?
Do you know, Zareh? Are you familiar with Mr. Mackey from South Park, who has like a massive head?
Absolutely. Okay.
That is now Liam, because what you've just said to him.
He's going to be insufferable if he wins it.
Because I just okay.
I'm better than that. What I will say is I did 3 drafts today. And the first draft I did Will Anderson fell to 10. And I said to Mick I wasn't comfortable with that because I didn't
No.
think it was realistic.
That
So
was
I did
random.
it. So I did another one to trade up to 6 or 7, which I think is a possibility, but would be incredible if it happened. I mean, it's unlikely. Yeah.
How high do you guys turn the randomness dial up on your mock
My
draft?
randomness is right down at the least.
Yeah, I don't like it being too random.
Okay.
To be fair, I have most down on the least. It's normally like least to like just a little bit, so it's more logical if they've done it, basically. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Next.
Oh, another PF Pro Football Network one.
Ooh, this is a good one.
So this is from Mitch Simmons, and his draft has Jalen Carter falling to 10, which we all know is sort of the dream. But
PFN's they're crazy over there. PFN, I don't know what they're doing over there. Yeah.
So he's managed to pick up Jalen Carter at number 10. We won't need to touch on that too much. We all know what that means. We'll be happy with that if that happens, but I generally believe he's not gonna fall that far. He's traded back from pick 30 with Indianapolis, to receive pick 35, 169, and a future 5th round pick to give send back pick 30. To which he's picked up BJ Ojulari, the edge rusher out of LSU. The running back that he's chosen for this draft, Zach Charbonnet, a bit of a strong favourite with the 4 of us so far tonight. And he has then traded back from 94 to receive pick 131 and Tyler Boyd.
I like this a lot. I really do like that.
It's a little bit out of left field, isn't it? Really, because Tyler Boyd, we all know, is third string receiver from Cincinnati, correct?
I'm not sure that trade goes through in real life because I think Tyler Boyd is maybe more value than that, given the pick. But I don't know.
Ultimately, what trades like this depend entirely what Cincinnati's picture is.
Boyd's nearly 30 years old. And,
is he really 30?
He's on. I think he's like 29. I believe.
Okay.
You might have to look that up.
Like 27, 28. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it feels like it. The time goes fast, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if that trade does go through, we get Tyler Boyd. We move back to 131 and we pick up Jair Brown, a safety out of Penn State, and
28 Z. He's 28.
There you go. 28. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so he's up there a little bit.
He is. Yeah.
And picking up with the 169 pick that we pick up from the Indianapolis trade, he's managed to pick up Garrett Williams, cornerback out of Syracuse, and with his final pick, he's picked up Nick Herbig, edge rusher from Wisconsin.
Nate's brother?
Yes. Or he is definitely a family member. I'm pretty sure he's his brother. So, compared to the last PFN mock draft, this one seems a little bit more realistic. But like we've already hinted at, I'm not sure that trade goes through. But what are your thoughts for the Eagles if they pick up Tyler Boyd in a draft where they manage to pick up Jalen Carter at pick 10? What are your thoughts, Z?
Yeah, I think and we 10 for Jalen Carter is insane. That's like that already. That blows us. That's excellent. That's excellent. Liam, hold on, don't panic yet. I'm not panicking. Tyler Boyd, he's 28 years old, but as far as like an actual real life NFL asset, on the field asset, he serves a huge purpose, and he's going to help the offense become far more efficient in moving down the field. Charbonnet, he got Charbonnet almost the same place I did. I got Charbonnet at 54. Yeah. He got Charbonnet at 62. Garrett Williams, I think Liam drafted Garrett Williams in his draft, but I think Mitch got him a little bit later. Didn't he, Liam?
A lot later.
God, I don't want to choose between.
Draft boards are so different, aren't they? Depending on which network you use or which podcast you listen to. This draft seems to be like one of the hardest ones to pin down.
Yeah.
A lot of the prospects, like people have first round grades on people who are in the third round and vice versa. It's crazy.
So just to remind you, so it was Will Anderson at 7, Paris Johnson Jr. at 30, Garrett Williams was at 80, and then Luke Whippler at 94, Tank Bigsby at 120, and Ronnie Hickman at 140.
I think I'm going to go with yours because you do have that future draft capital also attached to your team. So I think I'm going to go with that. He does have a future 5th. And I do like what he did with his 169th pick. He traded out of 30 for Ojulari at 35 and Garrett Williams at 169. It's really close. It's really close. But Paris Johnson at 130 also is very significant. That's gonna be a huge upgrade to the offensive line. It's not close, Mitch. If you're watching, don't take it personally. This is a very good draft, but I think Carter.
Yeah,
I've defended my first.
Mik, is this you?
No. He just means Mitch lost.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Mitch. Yeah, I gotta stick with Liam though. It was pretty.
We love you, Mitch. We love you, Mitch.
So Liam is still the last mock standing, and we move on to another host mock draft. So
This
one is.
This is good.
Process of elimination might help you figure out who this one is. But anyway, Mick, do you want to take this one away?
Maybe I'll do one, you do the next one, sort of thing. So this one starts off with a trade. Apart from the last two that we've had on PFF, we've been trading up. So this one we're trading down with the Patriots. We're doing a deal with the Devil guys, the New England Patriots. We're giving them pick number 10, and in response we are receiving pick number 14 in the first round, a third round pick 76, and a fourth round pick 117 to get some of those mid-round guys. So with the 14th overall pick, we're taking Myles Murphy, the edge rusher from Clemson. Towards the back end of the first round, pick number 30, we're taking Anton Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma. Second round, we're bringing Chue Tuipulotu, the edge rusher from USC, Southern Cal. You must be familiar with those sort of guys, Zareh. It's your neck of the woods. Round 3, we're moving to TCU, the Horny Frogs, bringing in Hodge Tomlinson, the cornerback. Staying in round 3, number pick 94, we're bringing in Tank Bigsby, who has featured in another draft previous to this one.
120, he was picked up in your draft, yeah. So higher,
yep.
much
a bit higher on this draft for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. Round 4, we're at 117. We're bringing Moro Ojomo from Texas Longhorns. And then it's a bit of a wait from round 4 all the way to round 7, where we bring in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Chip Kelly's boy from UCLA, to replace the quarterback that we need behind Jalen Hurts, and Troy Brown from Ole Miss at lineback with the last pick at 248.
So so Myles Murphy, I mean, at 14, I would have done something else with 14 with Myles Murphy. It just feels a little too rich that early in the draft for Myles Murphy. Anton Harrison at 130, I think I would have traded at 130, and just to move a few spots back with some middle round draft capital. I mean, these players are fine. They are difference makers in the game, but I think I could have probably leveraged a little bit more. Personally, I don't know. I think it was just a little bit too early for both those two players. Thule, USC. I like Thule a lot. I think he's great at pick 62. Tomlinson, I'm not too familiar with, but again, it does address the DB concerns we were talking about. And
I think Thule and Tank are great pickups at 94 and 62. Jump off the board for me.
Yeah, Tank in that area of the draft is perfect. Round 3, back of the third round, that's fine. We can do that. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I picked him over there. Moro Ojomo, I don't know what he can do. I don't know what his skill set is. Troy Brown, I almost picked up Troy Brown with my final pick of the draft too at 248. So this is almost like similar to my draft. It's not a bad draft at all. I mean, the Eagles will be fine going into 2023 with this group of players here. But again, yeah, I think Will Anderson. I think Liam's is still better than this one. No, I'm sorry. Was this you?
No, this was me.
No,
this was my draft.
I knew it was yours.
Liam probably would have known.
When I saw Myles Murphy at 14, I knew this was Mick.
But Myles Murphy is one of my guys. I really like him from Clemson.
That's great. So Myles Murphy is one of your guys?
Yeah, it's one of my guys. I think he's great, and I don't know why his stock is dropping so low. Probably because he picked up that sort of injury and didn't show out at the combine. But since then, he's had his pro day at Clemson, and I think his stock is starting to gain a bit more momentum now. But I think he's a fantastic prospect, and he's got a lot going for him. The Anton Harrison pick in particular, I think that's the first time I've picked him up in one of my mock drafts. But
so I picked him up, Mick. So in one of my my mock draft before the one I submitted, I had Anton Harrison at 30 as well. So I actually, if they don't go for a tackle earlier, and Anton Harrison's available there, and Paris Johnson isn't available there, then I would be quite happy with taking Anton Harrison at 30. You might be able to trade into 35, 36 and still pick him up, but yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially when you're in the mock draft machine. I suppose in real life as well, you feel like if you trade back to 35 or something, and then your guy goes, and then that's
and then you're fucked. Yeah,
and then you're fucked. So, but I did like Anton Harrison, especially knowing that he's played left tackle for the majority of his time at Oklahoma, but he has played at right tackle as well. So he's a swing tackle essentially, and that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles actually need at the moment, because we don't have anyone behind either Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata. We did have sort of Phil's favourite player, Dillard, but he is now gone to the Titans. So we're a bit light at tackle. I think
decent money as well.
Someone with that
million.
sort of tool set that can play both positions would be very helpful for us at that position. But
these guys are all impact players too to open the year. I mean, these guys are all going to be on the field at one. They're all going to be going at least like the first 5-6 picks. They're all going to be
the first 5 are all starting.
Yeah.
So Mick, have you played the music for yourself?
Yes, I have. Yes.
You have. Just checking.
I'm not going to give myself 2 trombones for one.
These drafts they're all good too. I mean, these drafts are all great. I mean, I think in real life, if this draft came out, everybody should be happy with. Anyways, go.
I know who this one's is.
So to
okay.
guess this. Got a name, Zareh. So obviously this is my mock draft that I put through earlier. So I'll give you a quick rundown before you tear me to shreds.
Please.
I'm keen. I've always been keen to trade back. So I don't feel like the value's there at 10, and I don't want to give up capital to move up and get the guy. Although I wouldn't be upset at all with the other drafts where we traded up. I think they're especially Liam.
This looks good, Phil. This looks very good.
So I was looking to trade back, but every time I did about 4 or 5 times, which teams they offer you to trade back to. But around about sort of anywhere between 14 and 21, I think I was sort of happy to trade with. This one ended up being the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Pittsburgh Feelers, as our Shall We Football podcast friends like to say.
Oh my God, I've not heard that. Is that really what they said?
That's what AJ refers to his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers as every time on the pod. It makes me chuckle. So I'm taking pick 17, pick 32 in round 2, and a 4th round in 2024, and a 5th rounder in 2025 to move back to 17, and they get pick 10, which I think isn't too bad trade. So I'm a big fan of Elijah Kantzabedian as well. So, and I know that he seems to be available quite a lot between 10 and 20. So I was quite comfortable that I can always pick him up around about that time. And it just so happened in this one at pick 30, Bijan Robinson falls. Now, I don't think that's going to happen at all, but the fact that it happened, I'm obviously going to go smash that button as quickly as possible. So with pick 17, I get Elijah Kantzabedian, and I still get my desirable pick of Bijan Robinson at pick 30. So moving on, I don't like to do too many trades, and so that's pretty much it. Apart from obviously I picked up pick 32 on top of pick 30, so 2 picks. Not 2 picks later. Sorry, the end of the. Sorry, I'm confusing myself here. No, pick number 32. Sorry, 2 picks later, I pick up Mazi Smith, defensive interior from Michigan. I think Mick, you picked him up as well. Still love that guy, and I've got a soft spot for Garrett Williams, cornerback from Syracuse as well. So I pick him up at pick 62. And
Garrett Williams has gone everywhere, all over the board in these mock drafts, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been consistent. I think I'm just a creature of habit, and then picking up a safety in Anthony Johnson Jr. He seems to be falling quite a bit in draft boards, but I'm a creature of habit, and my knowledge isn't as in depth as sort of Mick and Liam. So I picked him in my last live mock draft, and I didn't get roasted for it. So I'm sort of staying in my
Nice. I like that tactic.
and I picked him again. Then obviously the big gap up to round 7 with our last 2 picks. I'm picking up linebacker Michael Jones from Syracuse as well, and with the final pick 248, I'm picking up a guard in Caleb Chandler from Louisville.
I like you bringing up Michael Jones there, making sure Garrett Williams has a bit of an easy, start to his NFL career. He's got someone to.
That's exactly what the logic was when I picked that, Liam. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, Z, tell me what your thoughts. Roast me. Go on.
Oh, you will be roasted.
Liam, I think this one might get you just because Bijan Robinson was at 130, man. That's he didn't have to trade up at all, and he still got Bijan Robinson and Kalijah Kancey in the first round. Mazzie Smith, 32. It's Jesus Christ, and Bijan Robinson at 130. I can't say no to that. What am I supposed to do with that on the Eagles?
Am I allowed at the end of this to paint my argument for you to keep it? Is that allowed?
Please do. I don't want to talk it.
So Bijan Robinson at 30, I love, and I think that's on par or probably better than the Paris Johnson Jr. pick at 30. I would say it's probably better. If you're looking at talent, it's way better. But if you're looking at need, maybe similar. Kalijah Kancey at 17 is great. But I think Anderson at 7 is better, personally. I
agree with that.
Anderson over Kancey, Bijan Robinson probably just over Paris Johnson Jr. I need to get my draft up now to remember who I picked after that. Garrett Williams, I had at 80, so I had 18 picks later in the draft than Phil did. But I can't see who did I pick up in my third pick at 60. Okay, there we go. So Will Anderson Jr., Paris Johnson Jr. because I'm all about the juniors. Pick 1 and 2, and then Tank Bigsby at 120. I like that. Garrett Williams a little bit higher. I think you got to make your decision based on the top 2 picks.
It is.
Do you think Anderson? Do you think Anderson and Paris Johnson is better than Kancey and Robinson, or do you think Kancey and Robinson is better than Anderson and Johnson Jr.?
You're presenting
for his magic trick, Z. He's trying to pigeonhole me into the first 2 picks instead of just like you do.
You've sussed them out already.
But you are talking about Anderson he is a generational player. Kancey is not. Robinson is, but Johnson is going to be amazing. And Anderson is generational.
Have you heard of the Aaron Donald picks? Have you heard of the Aaron Donald comps yet? Because
if you believe it. This is fun. I like this a lot. And I'm getting Hank. So you've got Bijan Robinson there, but we're getting a Tank in there as well. So
no. I can't. Tank doesn't hold. He doesn't hold anything to Bijan Robinson. Like Tank.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I can't even put Tank in the conversation with Bijan. It's just
if you're going to choose Bijan Robinson or Will Anderson, who are you going to pick? Those 2 are on the board. Who are you going to pick?
It's also how
does this overall mark beat my? Or does my overall mark to beat Liam's? That's all you need to worry about. Stop letting Liam lead you down the garden path. If you've got
Anderson, Johnson, Kancey, Robinson. Anderson, Johnson.
Don't let him change the question.
Okay. Just because I think,
Mick, can you mute Liam for a minute?
I think I have to just because the running back position ultimately it can be worked with most prospects.
Exactly.
Even though Bijan Robinson is an elite prospect, you can put literally any competent running back there behind that offensive line with Jalen Hurts running the RPO, and they can still make it work. So Bijan Robinson isn't as crucial to the offense than somebody like Will Anderson is to the team. So with that said, I got to go with Liam. And Liam, Phil, Phil, it wasn't his persuasions. I was thinking about the context of the situation of the team, what the team needed. I'll take the L on that one. Phil, I'll take the L. Don't take the L.
No, it's all right. It's fine. I battle with honor. Liam just pulls out his bag of tricks. Let's move on to the next mock draft. Liam, you
gotta mute him. You don't let him talk.
I think and I'm not just saying this because it was my. I would genuinely much rather have. I mean, the chances of getting Anderson are small, but if we get Anderson and Paris Johnson, I would pick those two over Kansi and Branch. And yes, there's further picks, but those two players they're going to be like a cornerstone of your team for.
Right, Liam,
years.
you won. Let's move on.
No, I'm just agreeing.
I'm hoping Tony B's mock draft blows you out the water because I can't stand.
It's weird to see all those 4 players go in the top 15 in your mock drafts and look fucking daft. So. All right, so Tony B, who is a close friend of the podcast, he was on a couple of weeks ago now, famously of Loch Lomond Whiskies, who is a sponsor of this podcast, and I'm currently enjoying one of the whiskies right now, and so are you.
Yes,
Phil,
what have you
got tonight?
Yeah, I'm on the Inchmurrin. I tell you what, I've not been impressed with the first 2 times I tried it, but tonight it seems to be drinking really well. So I'm coming around to it.
Well, you say not impressed. I assume you mean comparably to the Inchmurrin and the 12 blend.
Yeah, in terms of ranking the 3 lovely bottles that have been sent by Tony.
I said it wasn't, but he is now. He's coming.
It might be creeping up the pecking order, the rankings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Possibly.
See, I'm on this Inchmurrin, and it is going so quickly. I'm frightened.
Jesus,
I'm frightened how quickly.
Is there less than half of that left, Mick?
Yes, there is, and there's less than half of the blend left. Not the blend, the perfectly balanced.
I actually did a whiskey tasting yesterday with Katie's dad and Katie's dad's wife, who I was with over the weekend. We were at a golf retreat, brought them to the house before we went out for dinner last night, and I did a whiskey tasting with the Inchmurrin and the 12 blend. And the Inchmurrin was liked by Kate's dad. The Inchmurrin was a favourite of mine, Katie's, and Bonnie's, his wife. And the blend was second ranked across all 3. But it was really, really cool and nice to do it. And also what I found interesting was every single person had their whiskey differently. So I had it with ice. Katie's dad, Julian, had it with a little bit of water. So did Bonnie, and Katie had it straight up. So just really interesting to see the different ways people have whiskeys and how they can interact. And Katie's dad and Katie's dad's wife had it straight first, but then had water afterwards. And when they put water afterwards, they said it opened up the flavors much, much more, which I think is pretty well known with whiskey anyway. But yeah, interesting to know.
Yes, I completely agree actually with the Inchmurrin. Added a little bit of water to it, and I would agree that it did open up the flavour profile of the malt, and it was very, very nice. And I will enjoy that. Quite a few bottles. I think my wife is starting to ask questions of why I've got so many bottles at the moment. So I'll need to get the stock level a bit down a bit more.
Didn't you purchase a recent whiskey, Mick, which was one of 300? Am I right in saying?
Yes, I did. It's just behind me actually. It's another Loch Lomond. It's a special edition. It's a peated cask strength bottle, so it's 57.7% alcoholic volume.
That'll keep you warm at night.
That will keep you warm at night, especially in this. You know, I know we're in April now, but I live in Scotland. It's very, very cold here still. Zareh doesn't understand what winter's like. He lives in Southern California.
No.
He doesn't.
I cannot do cold. I can't do it, man. It's terrible. It's the worst thing ever.
That's why he's got a mustache, because sometimes underneath his nose gets cold. So he has to grow it so long.
My sweater.
What all this whiskey talk has allowed Z to do is carefully analyse Tony B's mock draft.
Well done for bringing us back, Phil. Well done.
There's plenty of time to decide how much better it is than Liam's. And then now Z is going to take it away and tell us how much this blows out of the park. Go ahead, Z.
I didn't look at this draft one. I was actually listening to you guys the entire time.
You're letting me down here, Z. You're letting me down.
No, okay. I gave a quick look over. I'm
feeling pretty confident about this one.
This almost resembles my draft in a way, but if just to save on time, I gotta give it to Liam still for
yeah.
It's still you. It's still you. Yeah.
Tony loses out. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
All right, Tony.
Right, Tony. And last but not least, in the draft, we have Lee Everett. Submission. He has taken a trade down with Tampa Bay. We've given up to the number 10. We've received 19 and 82 in return. Taken Brian Branch with that 19th overall pick. 30 overall, we've taken Ujulari from LSU, the edge rusher. 62, Charbonnet, another favourite of the podcast. Garrett Williams, 82, 20 picks later, another favourite of the podcast. 94, we have a tight end, which hasn't come up very often, but this is quite a deep tight end class. But I haven't had a lot of people mock Luke Schoonmaker to the Eels, I must say. And then there's 2 7th round picks ending up the draft with Marty Mapu and Mikael Jones.
Yeah, I think what we've learned in this last half hour or so is that I think trading up is probably the best move for the Eagles this year. To take.
And I think Howie will do it personally. I genuinely do think Howie will do it.
I mean, my mock loses too to Liam. I think Liam's won it all. I mean, I just it's really tough when you're dealing with talent.
Look at Phil's shaking his head in disappointment.
I don't, Phil. What do you think? I mean,
he's just annoyed.
What would have been a good way to counter this? I mean, like,
no, there isn't anything we can do. It pains me to say it, but the first 2 picks are absolutely phenomenal picks, and if you can get that, I mean, the only reason mine came anywhere near close is because Bijan Robinson somehow miraculously fell to 30, which I think is unrealistic as well. So I'd probably take
Kantzabedian was good at 17, where you picked him up as well. I think yours was definitely yours was on par.
He was, but what I'm saying is that I think the deciding factor, if I was to look at this with fresh eyes and it wasn't my own mock draft, I'd probably be going, well, that's not going to happen. So, like, the reality kind of gets in the way of a good fiction sort of thing. So I was happy with the draft. I was excited. I love it when it's happened a couple of times. So I was happy submitting it because I didn't think it was too outside the box. But he isn't falling to 30. The Eagles, if they are going to take him, are going to have to trade up from 30. I don't think they'll pick him at 10. I think they'll either trade up from 10 or they'll trade back and try to hope that he falls a little bit later in the draft. Yeah, it pains me to say it, but Liam, yeah, well done. Right, anyway. It pains me to say it, but you are the last mock standing.
I'm the last mock standing.
Well done.
He's the first winner of the first last mock standing.
Yeah, and there will be many, by the way, in the coming weeks. We're going to do a couple more with some guests coming on the podcast, and so if you're listening in and you think you could do better, I'm sure you can. Then please submit your mocks in, your mock drafts in, and also just a reminder, we're doing a spotlight series on fans in the UK. Why you're an Eagles fan, where you are, who you are, where you're from, please send them in. We've got a few lined up. I had a message from one of our members yesterday saying, when is mine coming out? We will get them out in the next couple of days. Don't worry, I promise. Matt, and we will get these out. And and this game is, can I just a bit of congratulations, Phil, because fantastic game ideation here to do this last mock standing. Lots of fun. Not something I've heard on any other podcast that they've done. In anyone I listen to. So really congratulations.
No, appreciate it. Thanks has to go to Z for sticking with us for nearly 2 hours now and analysing every Eagles mock draft under the sun and still maintaining that fantastic smile and enthusiasm from the very start. So thanks very much, Z.
No problem.
Z, definitely want to get you on the podcast again, my friend. You've been absolutely incredible. So we'll talk, we'll chat. We are all also in the same fantasy league together, and I'm going to give a little bit of a flex out to me and Phil here, because Phil, didn't me and you take the joint prize home on the fantasy league last year?
Yeah, two humble guys, novices, you might say, from across the pond, got invited across to Holt from the Sherwood Football Podcast.
Pretty prestigious fantasy players in that league, I have to say.
Some prestigious,
a lot,
more. pretty much everyone in that group, apart from us, has FF at the end of their Twitter tag. So that's how serious people take it. And then you and me are in the final, and I absolutely blew out of the park. So I'm the reigning champion. I've also got the number 1 pick overall now, so I'm taking Bijan, so I'm well happy.
Wow. You sure you don't want to wait till the 110 to see if he falls to you like you did in your draft here at 130?
Call me out on it. Yeah, no way, absolutely no way. I worked hard to get to that 1 pick from 12. So no, it's a good league. It's been fun, but yeah, no, thanks ever so much for coming on, Z. I've really enjoyed having you on.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Z, it's been absolutely incredible. Thanks so much for giving so much of your time. Away from your 3-month-old. I hope you're really enjoying fatherhood and seeing a few of your messages on Twitter. It seems like you're having time of your life with a newborn boy. And Phil, on our podcast, has recently had a kid in serious, and Mik's got 2 young whippersnappers who are the bane of his life as well. So it's good all around. It's I'm getting married in September. Maybe in 18 months, 2 years time, maybe I'll have something to share about as well. Who knows? Hopefully. But listen, thanks for coming on the podcast, and listen, everyone listening in. There's a couple of you watching live. I know most of you watch or listen on podcasts afterwards and listen back. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We are the British and Irish Eagles. We are loving what we do here on the side of our jobs to bring you Eagles content closer to the draft, closer to the fan base over in Philadelphia, bringing it over here and just growing the sport over here. We live every single moment of it. And yes, I am at least a bottle and a half of wine in. So I will end the podcast there and say, we are the British and Irish Eagles, and we love you.